Good Sunday morning to everybody out there. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on NFL Betting Blitz. If you could do us a favor real quick, if you're watching, make sure you're Eric's YouTube channel, and also make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's what G said podcast. That'll help us out. And then anytime we have videos or separate best bet videos, you'll get alerted to all of those. Both of us on the mend. My family's been sick for about a month. Eric's still feeling struggling over there, but we're going to power on through. It's that time of the year, Eric, where you sent the rundown and I looked at you and it's like, is this week 13? Is this week 12? They all start to jumble together at this point. But the game matter even more because now we're talking about playoff positioning. We're talking about teams if they really have an opportunity to get to the big tournament at the end of the year. So are you ready to rock for week number 12, my friend?
I am ready, my friend.
Now, remember, if you're following us on some of the socials, check out Blue Sky. That's a new one that's been popping up and been a lot of followers, a lot of interactions, a lot of engagement over the last week and a half. So if you're not on there, give it a follow. Blue Sky. Check us out over there. It's me, Gino B. The Gophers last night. Bobby Thomas was asking before we get into anything.
Yeah, we were invested in the Gophers last night. It was a little bit of a heartbreaker.
That's a brutal one.
I don't know if you saw the game, but Franklin did a fake punt. Penn State did a fake punt up by 1 on 4th and 1.5, 4th and 2. And it's like, it was such a bad call that it worked.
I know. And it's like, it's not supposed to work.
It was
when it's that bad a call, it's like they don't deserve it to work.
But I mean, Minnesota had some chances, their quarterback, was just running and dropped the ball that led to 3 points. That was the difference in the game. But interesting game of football. Interesting week of football.
Okay, well, let's get into this week of football and let's dive into the first game on the slate today. This is one that a lot of people were talking about, and it's moved a little bit towards the Colts, but it just felt like a great spot to play the Colts plus the 7.5. You and I both locked this one in a little earlier in the week. I know you have a bunch of trends about the Lions coming off of a bunch of big wins, big win streaks, all that kind of thing. So I'll let you hit on those in a minute. But for me, just in these two teams and how they match up, I felt like if you are looking for a team to try to slow the Lions down, the Colts have a very good template for that because they can run the ball with multiple guys. They can have different guys run at you. That's one thing where the Lions struggle a little bit. Right now, missing another linebacker, the middle of the Lions defense, you feel like will be a little bit weaker. So that's where you want to attack them. You just want to continue to run at them, make them tackle you repeatedly over and over again. So not only do the trends fit, but it just feels like a good matchup for the Colts based on what they do well, if they can kind of slow the Lions down a little bit here. So I thought there were a couple things to point towards, maybe even that rapid improvement from Richardson, right? This is a guy who doesn't have many starts in his entire career in college and the NFL. It wouldn't be surprising to see him really improve every game, right? Or have these stretches of 2 or 3 games where all of a sudden we see him take big steps forward.
I mean, the main thing with him is I think that benching kind of opened up his eyes a little bit. We saw a much more composed, looked a lot better back there. The main thing in terms of this game with me is gambling's about buying low, selling high. Teams coming off scoring 50 points or more, 45% against the number, 8-game winning streak, 39% against the number. Teams that won by 38 points or more, 39.9% against the number. When they won by 38 or more and are favorites, 37. When they're road favorites, 33% against the number. Shane Steichen, one of the better coaches in the league against the spread, 60.7% at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, what do the Lions do? They like to run the ball. Colts have Buckner and Stewart. And we've seen when the Lions have played someone with a good defensive line, their offense has struggled. I know they killed the Titans, but that was all return yard stuff. That wasn't offensive production. And they lost to the Tennessee Titans. So the blueprint is kind of there to beat the Lions when you have a strong defensive front that can stop the run and get pressure on Goff. Lions' offensive scheme is to filter to the middle of the field. That's why St. Brown and Laporte have so much high production. But Moore is their best cornerback, and he plays the slot. He is PFF graded 3 corner. So I think he's going to be able to contain Brown. Richardson, he's the type of quarterback I like to take as a dog, someone who has the arm to extend the plays, make huge throws, also with his feet. Arnold is having a bad year for the Lions. I think they're going to look to exploit him. He is PFF graded DB 98. Robertson, when they play the nickel, he's outside the top 100. Lions have a Thanksgiving Day matchup on deck. Look, I know it's against the Bears, but a game like that's one of the big games because that's the highlight of the season, playing on Thanksgiving. So I really like the Colts here. If you guys are feeling frisky,
little money line too.
Put a little money line.
Absolutely.
I will say this though: as soon as this game is over, and I can get
you go back and bet the Lions again,
even if it's an astronomical huge number.
Yep. So we get to Chiefs Panthers. This was one of the harder games for me, Eric, because the gambler in me watching these Chiefs games all throughout the year felt like, okay, you know what? This team has gotten a little lucky. Probably going to be some regression for them coming later in the year. And it happened last week against the Bills. They lost that game. Balls didn't really bounce for them in that game. It was a clean loss for them. Mm-hmm. Now, do we look at this like that's the start of a couple losses to even things out? Or do we look at this like this is a good game for the Chiefs to bounce back against an inferior opponent where they might be able to like prove a little something here? They might be able to try to get Hopkins or Worthy or some of these guys more involved and show, hey, we still can do things offensively. I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit. This number is way, way too big. I'm not sitting here going to say I'm laying it with KC on the road, but I could see Kansas City kind of wanting to come out a little bit motivated because they did get a little bit handled last week against Buffalo. I'm going back and forth here. What about you? Did you land on the Carolina side?
So I have two bets in this one. The first one is I did Adam Thielen over 26.5.
I'm hooked on a Thielen. Dun, dun,
he 21% target share when he's betting games with Bryce Young. He's gone over this total 14 of 19 games. It's 27-26. I found a 26.5 at -106. So I got that in. And then in terms of this game, what I did was I played the Panthers. I got it at 11.5. Mahomes is a road favorite, laying 3 on the road or more is 42%. When he's laying 7.5 or more, he's 23%. On the road against a team with a winning percentage of 350 or less, 23% ATS. So he's not covering against teams that have a losing record. Flip side, double-digit favorites this year are 5-0 ATS. They're due to have one loss. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated this year. No. Trends are saying to take the Panthers. Also, I don't mean to hate on the Chiefs, but there are some serious Eagles vibes from back in the day from you last year. A team that has overachieved, that is due for some regression.
That's what concerns me, right? Like, it feels like there's 3 or 4 of these close games that they're going to lose. Think about what happened with the Broncos game a few weeks back, right? Like, that kind of stuff doesn't happen repeatedly.
Or even like the Ravens game. What's
the toe in the back of the back of the end zone, right?
In the back. There's a million things that could go wrong. Brooks is coming back. Obviously, you got him and Hubbard back there going against this Chiefs defense, which has been good against the run, but the Panthers do have a top 10 offensive line. I think they're going to be able to move the ball. Thielen there gives them another playmaker to go with Xavier Legette. I look for a huge game from Adam Thielen. I think the Panthers are going to be able to run the ball. I think this number is just way too big. I think it's kind of a letdown spot, even though they lost last week. I'm going to take the Panthers here. Anything over 10, I like. I think I got mine at 11.5.
Yeah, it was up there a little earlier in the week, and it started moving about a point towards this direction. Like,
I got mine at 11.
Yeah, it's just like it's so hard for me to lay this with Kansas City. I think they'll be more competent. Like, this probably wouldn't be a Panthers money line game I would play. That's just such a massive number. We move along, Eric, to the Vikings at the Bears. We've got the Vikings as a 3-point favorite on the road here. Chicago comes off a really tough loss last week. Brown took over play calling, and they ran the ball a lot better. 34 runs, 34 dropbacks. They got the ball out of Caleb's hands quicker. It was maybe his best showing of the year. He was 23 of 31, 231 yards. The key for Caleb, it was almost like he was trying not to run a lot of this year, which doesn't really make sense. It was like, I think I noticed this towards the end of last year at USC with him. He wants to like teach himself to be a real drop back quarterback and find like a 15 to 20 yard pass down the field every play. Sometimes it's just not there, Eric. Yeah. Sometimes that guy is not open down the field in the perfect spot, and you just tuck the ball and you pick up 7. Like when you're Caleb, you can do that 90% of the time. If you tuck the ball, you're going to be able to pick up a few yards. So now that he's kind of figuring that out a little bit, Drake May does that quite well a lot of the time. Bo Nix has done that pretty well. And we absolutely saw that with Daniels doing that very, very well. So I like the comfortability that I saw from him. And I think overall their offense was moving better. I mean, they would have won that game if it was just awful execution down the stretch. I still worry about their coaching staff, but this feels like another Bears spot. The only thing that I would tell anyone playing this game right now, like you and I, if we played this earlier in the week, we got 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, it's dipped down a little bit. I actually have 2 bets in this game. The first one, I obviously took the Bears plus 3.5. At 3, I don't like it as much. I gave this one out on the show I do earlier in the week. Who is Sam Darnold to be laying this many points over a field goal on the road in a divisional game? Career 44% against the number, as a favorite 38% against the number. There has been a switch in the way the defenses are playing the Vikings. They're stacking the box, forcing Darnold to throw the ball more, take Jones away. The last 4 games, Darnold's TD to INT ratio is 1 to 1.4. So it was 1 INT for every 1.4, so that's not good. First, it was for every 3 TDs, it was 1 INT. So that's got significantly worse. For as bad as a coach Eberflus is, he can coach a defense. Bears have a top 10 unit in the league. I think they're going to be able to take Jones away and force Darnold to beat them. Now, what was the big thing that the OC did to make Williams and the offensive line's life easier? Number 1, more preset motion, making it easier for Williams to determine where the coverage is going.
Don't put it all on him, right? Don't make this young kid who, like, you, Eric, I'm sure you had this before, where you've got these kids that you coach, right? And you're like, man, this kid is going to be incredible, and he's smart, and he's got a great mind. And you can get a little, like, as a coach, you can say, I think this kid can probably deal with it. But that's not the best way to do it. You have to develop them correctly. Some kids, you throw them in the deep end right away, and that's fine. But for most people, you have to give them a little and a little and a little and let them continue to progress. And you can't just overwhelm them. So many quarterbacks have been ruined because of things like that. It was so nice to see just Caleb and the offense look more comfortable last week.
More comfortable, more, I don't want to say organized.
Yes.
He also did a better job of getting the ball to Williams' hands fast. What does that do? It makes less time for the offensive line to be able to block, and also less stuff for Williams to read, giving him less reads. They're like, look, if those 2 reads aren't there, just run the ball. You mentioned him running more. That was basically it. It was like, look, if stuff's not there, put your head down and
don't take the sack. Don't get a -7 yards, get a +5,
They lined up DJ Moore in the slot more. Obviously, this is the weakness of which is what he played a lot more with the Panthers, which he played more last year. This is kind of the weakness of the Vikings defense. St. Brown, 8 for 122 against the Vikings. I think Moore is going to have a good game. And lastly, he just made everyone accountable. We saw Nate Davis say he was hurt. They were like, okay, Nate, you're hurt. You're done. We are going to cut you. Road divisional favorites laying 3.5 or less, 45% against the number. When they're laying between 3.5 and 6.5, 44% against the number. I really like the offensive changes for the Bears. I think the Vikings are trending in the wrong direction. My old man has a saying, we are who we are. Sam Darnold is a bad quarterback, and I don't trust him. I got the Bears here plus 3.5. And then also I took DJ Moore over 45.5 receiving yards. Vikings run zone at the highest rate in the league. Moore has done well against zone coverage this year. Leads the Bears in target share and yards against zone coverage. Led the team in routes and snaps last week had 7 targets, 7 receptions, 65. Last year against the Vikings, same defense, 11 for 114. Averaged against the Flores defense in his career 8 for 82.5 yards. I like him lining up in the slot more, so I'm going to take more also over 45.5 yards receiving.
Yeah, and things don't always have to be as black and white, right? I mean, we can look at this situation and say, yeah, Sam Darnold's playing the best football he's played in his life. He probably still has a ceiling. That's not a top 5, top 10 quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. He's found a spot where he can make some mistakes, and his defense can help clean those mistakes up a little bit. And so I think we can have those conversations where it's like, yeah, he's better. He's improved. The coaching staff's done better with him. He's still not at a point where you feel like this team should be a favorite by a field goal on the road, or once you hit a certain level with a quarterback like Sam, that's where you start wondering about things like when they're favored, when they have to win with margin, because that's the kind of stuff where things have to go very right. They have to be efficient. The mistakes really hurt you. You still don't mind playing a guy like Sam in an underdog situation. You know, maybe in a second round of the playoff where they're a dog and they're maybe having to play up against a team. That may be a situation where you like, okay, there's a ceiling. He can still make some plays like this. What I like to see as someone who just doesn't like when quarterbacks get ruined, Sam Darnold in a different version would have been like an average NFL quarterback. You know, he would have had if this is the way his career starts, he's able to be a competent middle of the road quarterback. We kind of saw the same thing happen with Geno Smith, right? Like if Geno Smith got to reset his career when he started in Seattle versus what happened with him when he was with Adam Gase and those guys in the Jets, like some of these poor guys get ruined. And I love seeing Sam back in the spot, but you don't want to ever really be playing those guys like Sam, like Geno, the overachievers. You don't like to play them when they need to cover with margin. Those are the guys you like punching up, and they're best to play when they're dogs. So Eric and I got a better number a little earlier in the week with the Bears there at +3.5 at home. Eric, we move to Cowboys Commanders as we have the Commanders a 10.5 point favorite here. I mean, I watched Dallas the last few weeks. They've been awful. I don't have a whole lot of positives to say. They've been down by at least 20 points in 6 straight home games. Nobody's even talking about the players on the field. They're talking about Dion and is he going to come, and Sanders and what's going on with Jerry World. And
how can they get out? They can't. Like, you look at the contract, it's physically impossible.
There's no way.
This contract.
There's no way. The one positive I'll say about this game, and if I were to be forced onto a side, why I might be okay on the Dallas side, they've been a lot better on the road. Like all of these metrics that people are going through and they're showing the graphics of how bad they've been down 20 points in all these straight games. Basically, all of those things are at home. On the road, for some teams, there's a little less pressure when you just go out there and play. You don't have to deal with all the crap that's Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. You don't have to deal with all the drama being at home. Hell, you don't have to deal with the actual sky falling or the sun shining in and right in the eyes of their quarterbacks trying to lead game-winning drives. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them play a little bit better, but just from me watching the football games, Eric, getting like analysis or how I feel like Dallas could match up well, it's hard for me to get there. It's just more of, should Washington be laying 10 plus points against anyone, right?
I mean, I really think in DFS, the thing you have to do is you have to decide, who do you want in your lineup? Do you want Brian Robinson or do you want Jaden Daniels? You pick one of those guys, and that's just the guy you want to have in this league. Because you definitely want someone on the Commander's side with how bad the Cowboys defense has been. Interesting trend, the last 10 games, only one game was a one-score game, and that was in 2012. Cowboys, what's their interest number? Lambs, Diggs, partying after they lost last week against the Texans. Daniels has struggled facing a pass rusher. Parson is there. Is he going to be able to do enough to get to him and disrupt Daniels? Are the Cowboys going to be able to move the ball? Commanders are 29th DVOA defending the run, and the Cowboys run game is 31st rush attack per PFF.
They cannot run the ball, I know.
Run blocking per PFF. Lattimore's not going to be playing, but then again, Lamb's banged up.
Yeah.
The main thing, look, I think what you do here is Schumacher, whatever his name is, Ferguson is out. Rush in his playing career targets the tight end 24% of the time. Schumacher is a $2,500 player on DraftKings. You put him in your tight end, he's going to get you 6 points. That 6 points will play for his price tag, and that will open you up for some more expensive players. So I think that's what you do on the Cowboys side of the ball. And then do Robinson or Daniels on the other side of the ball. In terms of betting, it's really tough. I want to get there with Brian Robinson, but his rushing prop, it's 73. That's way too juicy for me. So I'm just betting-wise, I have nothing in this game.
Eric, we keep rolling to the Bucks at the Giants. DeVeets, Tommy Cutlets versus Baker Mayfield. So could there be a world that we're living in next? Because next week is Giants Cowboys, right? On Thanksgiving. I think it is. Could we be living in a world next week where we get Tommy Cutlets versus Trey Lance?
I mean,
on Thanksgiving, that could be.
I don't think they're going to. Trey Lance is bad, man.
I know. So when you watch Cooper Rush, that's what I think. Like somebody was saying the other day, how bad must Trey Lance be? When not even that Cooper Rush is miserable, like he's a backup quarterback, whatever. But just with a guy with some athleticism, with a high ceiling in this position, and he still can't get out there. Like, he must be so bad in practice, and we haven't seen him look good in the games. But nonetheless, that's next week. We got Tommy DeVito right now, today, at home. I can't wait to see the DeVito family, that agent. Love that agent. Just for us Italian people, it's a very important day when the DeVitos are out there. Just really, really big stuff. As I got a message from the other room from my girlfriend who's a Cowboys fan. She grew up in Dallas, and she says, be nice to Dallas. Unfortunately, right now, we can't be too nice to the Cowboys. But Eric, all joking aside now, as we get into the analysis of this game, what was your buy-in point here? Like, at what point do you say, okay, I'm fine with playing DeVito at home, or no, I don't think Baker should be laying this many points on the road, or is just like a stay away from you?
So you're a professional athlete, and I don't know, the whole thing is just weird to me. Like, he volunteered to play special teams, and then he does the little goodbye speech, and then he asks for his release. DeBull is talking, and there's some stuff going on in the background. There's obviously somebody was throwing a fit in the locker room. There was some rumor that it was Slayton that was throwing a fit. I don't know. And now instead of playing the guy that was number 2, you're playing the guy that was number 3 as the starting quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is just really weird to me. In terms of this game, I wanted to find Vita Vea sack prop, but I couldn't find any sack props. DeVito's been sacked at least 5 times in every game that he has started. And then I did the Mike Evans over 53.5. He's going to be shadowed by Deonte Banks. Banks in PFF coverage is in the 94th best DB. He allowed 7 to 86 to Cooper, 7 to 98 to CD Lamb, 5 to 89 to AJ Brown. Coming off the bye, coming off injury, we've seen Mayfield has a history of locking on to a receiver. We saw that at the beginning of the year, last year with Evans, beginning of the year with Godwin, then with Kira, I think he's going to go back to Evans. So I did Evans over 53.5. That's the only bet in this game. And I wanted to find a Vita Vea sack prop, but I wasn't able to find one. You're on mute, my friend.
Let's go to Patriots at the Dolphins. Dolphins, a 7.5-point favorite as they host. Eric, they have an outside chance to make it into the playoffs. For them, the teams in front of them, in particular the Broncos, need to come back to life a little bit. We've seen this Dolphins offense play better, but their defense has still been a little bit lackluster. And honestly, when we talk about matchups, the Patriots have been a lot more competent lately, especially on offense. And they have a quarterback now that can pick up an extra first down here and there. He can move the ball with his legs. So I actually think at over the 7, I would be on the Patriots side here because I just don't know defensively if Miami should be laying that number because I don't really trust their defense all that much.
Yeah, I got the Pats. I got them at 7.5. Dolphins, in my eyes, a little bit of frauds. Should have won that game against your Rams when you look at the box score. And then the Raiders were moving the ball at will. There was some freaky Mike McDaniel, Napoleon complex. I'm passing the ball when I shouldn't at the end of the game to make the Dolphins cover that game. Why is Jonnu Smith leading the Dolphins in targets? Where is Jalen Waddle? Since May has taken over, Hunter Henry has averaged 7 targets, 5 receptions, 52 yards a game. Miami is 21st DVOA defending the tight end, gave up a huge game to Brock Bowers last week. I think Hunter Henry is going to in line for a good game. Look to put him in your DFS lineups, only $4,000 on DraftKings. I think the Patriots are going to be able to get enough stops with how broken this Dolphins defense has looked. Home divisional favorites, 46% against the number, laying 6 or more, 47%. He's the type of guy I like to back. Extend the play with his legs. He can throw the ball. He doesn't force anything. And this Miami team, it's been a nightmare. Defense has taken a step back. Offense has taken a step back. They're basically just feeding. The whole offense has been H.N. and Jonnu Smith the past 3 weeks. I don't know. I'm going to take the Patriots here plus the 7.5.
Both on the Patriots side. Nice to hear from Sports Facts. Nice to hear from I Hate the Lakers. If you have any plays for today, if you have any questions about games for today, if you have any props that you want to mention for today, throw them on in the chat. Erik and I will react to all of them. Great to hear from you out there as we continue along NFL Week 12. We're up to the Titans at the Texans. This was another one that was 8 when you and I discussed this game earlier in the week. Now it's at 7.5. Houston is a 7.5 point favorite over the Titans. Texans, they got up against the Cowboys last week. They just got a little stagnant. I mean, they won. They did what they were supposed to do. They just haven't really looked all that impressive at 7-4 now. Joe Mixon, he's been the MVP of their team. I didn't realize Mixon had some of this left in him. He's got a really nice burst. And this team, they've really struggled without Will Anderson Jr. We're going to get the actives and inactives in just a few moments, so we'll make sure we pass everything along to you as far as that is concerned. But if the Titans could just not hurt themselves, Erik, instead of being 2-8, they'd be 5-5, honestly, because their defense is really good. We've seen at least 2 games that they completely lost because of Levis mistakes, where he made a really bad game-changing mistake. And then even last week, they had 11 first downs and 13 penalties in the game.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to win games when you're giving the other team free yards repeatedly over and over and over. So you compare a team like this to the Vikings, right? The templates for those 2 teams are kind of similar, right? You have strong defenses that can maybe turn teams over. You'll try to lean on some offensive playmakers. You just can't have your quarterback make these absurd, insane, game-changing mistakes. And for the most part, Darnold hasn't had a lot of those this year, and a guy like Levis has. If you flipped these 2 quarterbacks, like if you put Levis with the Vikings, they wouldn't be as good because, just like we were talking about with Sam, you have to have a cleaner leader with a team like this. You don't have to have as high of a ceiling, but you just can't make as many mistakes, unfortunately. It just feels like a really nice spot again for them, though, because the Texans have been a team all year that's been making a lot of mistakes. They haven't been clean. They've been really sloppy with the way they've been playing.
I did it. I took the 8.5 with the Texans. Texans, second fewest passes allowed over 20 yards. That really stood out to me.
They don't allow big plays.
Yep. Allow the lowest completion percentage in the league with passes over 20 yards. What does that do? With Nico Collins back, He's the 3-point shooter. He's the deep threat that opens up stuff for Mixon, who you mentioned. Now, when we look at Mixon's production, when there is no Nico Collins, it vastly goes down. When Stroud's production, no Nico, vastly goes down. And this Titans defensive line we've seen has been good against the run, and their back four, even though it's a little banged up, has been good against the pass. I think Stroud, who's took a step back, is going to have a hard time moving the ball. Titans, they lean on Calvin Ridley, and the Texans are 23rd DVOA defending opponents' wide receiver ones. Ridley, the last 4 games, is averaging 10 targets, 6 receptions, 90 yards per game. I expect him to have a big, solid game here. Pollard is a good to go, but no Spears. What does that mean? Pollard's in line for a huge game running the inside zone. Doesn't look like Will Anderson's going to play, and the Texans struggle against inside zone, and they're the 5th worst tackling team per PFF. I think the Titans are going to be able to keep this lucky. They're one of the most unluckiest teams in the league. Should have beat the Jets. Should have beat the Bears. You mentioned they've just had this stuff that hasn't gone their way. Texans, one of the luckier teams in the league. I think that's going to look to switch a little bit.
Yep.
This stuff always evens out. Texans offense has no rhythm. Stroud's took a step back. Plus, I think there's some issues. We saw in the Monday night, Stroud got knocked down, and literally no one on the offensive line went to help him out. A couple plays later, Larry Tunsil got knocked down, and everyone sprinted over to help him out. I think there could be some issues in the Texans locker room. I'm going to take the Titans. Anything over 7, I got them at 8.
Yep, we're both on the that same side here with the Titans. Eric, we move. Oh, let's get to a couple of these. Jameson Williams, half-point PPR, or Tank Dell? Who would you start this week?
I'd probably start Jameson.
I think so too. Yeah. Defensively, we're talking about the Titans, who are just better, right? They have a strong defense. I could see them.
They could win straight up.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate Williams. Yeah, we are all seem like we're on the Williams side on that one. Keep throwing some of those in if you have any questions on sit starts or any questions on props or plays for today. Broncos, 5.5-point favorite on the road here, playing the Raiders. Look, the Raiders have been really disappointing this year. We can't sugarcoat it. They were supposed to have a much better defense. They just don't. They got hurt. I don't think their coaching staff is very good. Combinations of things, but they have a monster, Bowers. You remember the movie Little Big?
Why doesn't he get any love for Rookie of the Year?
I know. These are the things that are absurd, where it's like it can't always just be the quarterbacks, and it shouldn't. This guy is doing things that we've never seen any tight end or receiver do,
Yep.
and I always want to. You remember the movie Little Big League?
Yes, I love that movie.
Great movie. One of the pitchers in the movie is named Bowers. So I always think, whenever I hear them like Bowers with a nice catch, I always think I remember Mike McGreevy was the other pitcher, and he would yell at Bowers because Bowers was the guy who was always like the clown. They were dropping the water balloons on people's heads from the hotel there. Bowers. We're going to lean on Bowers, though. This guy is an absolute monster. And I know you were more on the Raiders side, right? This, to me,
I took the Raiders.
Because this feels like the Vikings game in that I respect the Broncos. Good defense. They've overachieved this year. If we talked about the Broncos at the beginning of this year and the Vikings as two teams that would be in playoff positioning right now after 11 weeks, a lot of people would have said, Eric, whatever you're smoking, send it on over my way because it's pretty good. But they've overachieved. They've done really well, but Bo Nix shouldn't be favored by more than a field goal on the road against anybody.
Yeah, like I look at it like this: NFL buying low, selling high. Broncos and Lions are the teams that, Jalen Cooker is inactive. Huge Adam Thielen game. Huge Adam Thielen game is coming. Buying low, selling high. Is there a team? I mean, the Lions, Broncos are the two highest teams in the league right now. Broncos getting this playoff buzz, dark horse team to make it the Super Bowl. Knicks Rookie of the Year talk. Teams that won by 32 or more points, 43% against the spread the following week. When they're favorites, it dips down to 41. Road favorites dips down to 37. Divisional game dips down to 35. Peyton on the road laying 4 or more, 46% ATS, laying between 4 and 10, 44. Broncos, the weakness of the Van Joseph's defense is defending the tight end. That's all this is going to be. It's going to be a heavy dosage of Brock Bowers. Surtain is going to shadow Jacoby Myers. Look for some Trey Tucker love. Look for some Brock Powers love. We need to know what's going on in the backfield. Both Madison and White left the game against the Dolphins. So is that Amir Abdullah? Are they bringing someone up from the practice squad? Because that could open up some salary too in your DraftKings lineup. Because for as good as the defense has been, they do kind of give up some production in the running game with that wide 9 system. But I'm going to be on the Raiders here. I think this is just way too many points. I think this should be, like you said, like a 3-point game. This is one of the biggest public sides in the world. A lot of the public money is on the Broncos. So I'm thinking the Raiders here plus the 6.
Bowers! Let's get some Bowers love today as we move to the Cardinals at the Seahawks. This is an important game, Eric, because these two teams are both right back in division contention. They play each other 2 of the next 3 weeks. Cardinals are 6-4. Other 3 teams in the division have 5 losses. So a lot can happen in this NFC West in the next few weeks. Cardinals, Seahawks, basically a pick 'em here after Seattle comes off that big emotional win. They come back and they beat the 49ers. They had been really struggling. So that was a big pick-me-up kind of save your season type win. Cardinals have been kind of quietly one of the most impressive teams in the league this year. They just go out offensively. They play really well. One of the better versions of Kyler Murray that we've ever seen. And it's like we're kind of waiting for Arizona to hit the wall like they did a couple times when Cliff Kingsbury was there, where they would have these great starts to the season. Kyler would get a little bit banged up, and then they would sort of like crater down the stretch. This team feels a little different. They feel just a little bit more well-balanced overall. I've been more impressed defensively with what they've been able to do lately. This one's a hard one for me, though. I mean, I'm kind of going back and forth. Like the spot says for me to take Seattle at home, kind of getting a little undervalued. I don't know if Arizona should be basically a pick 'em on the road here, but if we're just looking at week to week, analyzing the body of work, I think Arizona's been much better recently. So I'm having a tough time with this one, Eric. How about for you?
I did nothing here. I have some Cardinals futures to make the playoffs and to win the West. And I have some Rams futures. Excuse me. So for me, this game is...
You're already invested in all the ways you need.
I need the Cards to win, the Seattle to lose. The interesting thing is Tyler has struggled against man coverage. He ranks 26th in man coverage this year, and Seattle does run a heavy man concept. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's been 34% target share, 54% air share yards per fantasy points data this year against man coverage, 35% first read right. So I think he's in line to have a good game. But do you trust? But one of the pieces to that is Kyler going to be able to throw him the ball? Because Kyler does struggle against man. So that's kind of a little bit of a gamble. DK Metcalf, I think he's in line for a good game against Sean Murphy-Bunting, 96 cornerback per PFF. But you do trust Geno Smith. Me and one of my friends are having a debate. If you were Seattle, who gives you a better shot to win in the pass-heavy offense? Geno Smith or Jameis Winston?
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, like seriously, like who gives you a better shot to win? Like I don't think I would rather have Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston is a better quarterback than Geno Smith. But it's for me, this is what quarterback do you trust most? Look, if this was Arizona getting 3, or if this was Seattle getting 3, I would or even 2 or 2.5. I absolutely love it. This number is dancing all over the place. I want literally nothing to do with this. I'm just going to let my future prices play out. Maybe I could see something in the live market where watching the game, teams moving the ball but not getting any points. Look to play them live a little bit later, but pre-flop, I'm not going to do anything.
So from Scheffner. San Francisco's projected starting defensive line today in the game against Green Bay, entirely different than the one that started against the Packers last year, just under 10 months ago. 4 completely different players. Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave, Chase Young, nope. Gross Matos, Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, Leonard Floyd. I think those are little things about the 49ers team that people aren't talking enough about this year. Stuff like that, right? Their defense is completely different. Staff looks a little bit different. They're just not as deep all over the place. This is an interesting game because...
But I mean, when you look at it, like, they've had some deep-ass runs.
I know.
It's impressive that
it went that long.
You know what I mean?
As it was happening, we kept saying even last year, like, things are going really well for them right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually happen that way where all their main players are around. Everybody's pretty healthy. Things are breaking the right way for you. And this year it's kind of gone the opposite. And now we're sitting in a situation where the Packers are a 6-point favorite in this game over the 49ers here. So
yeah, this is one of those ones. Like, look, Packers were laying 2.5, and the number, and what you really want to ask yourself, do you feel that Bosa and all those defensive linemen and Brock Purdy are worth 4 points?
Yeah.
Are they, or are they worth more? You know, I don't trust this Packers team laying that big of a number. I don't trust the 49ers team. This is another one where there's no point doing anything. I think this is going to be a heavy Debo game. I think they're going to lean on Debo like no other. Look to do some Debo stuff, but I don't want anything to do it. And I am trying my hardest to find a Vita Vea sack prop, and I cannot find one from the life of me.
So from Schefter, they believe Brock Purdy should be able to return next Sunday at Buffalo despite the soreness. They thought he'd be able to start today, though, and he can't. So
I don't know. I saw a video of him trying to throw, and
it didn't look great.
I mean, I know pain, as bad as that sounds.
That was pain.
That, like, his facial expression said pain.
No, there was a report that came out talking about Aaron Rodgers and how banged up he is. And it was kind of funny because it said, oh, really? You know, the guy, because they kept asking him to do a scan or to look at this or have this looked at or go talk to the doctor. And Rodgers is like, nah, I don't want to do that. And they're like, oh, wait. So the guy who denies modern medicine all of a sudden doesn't want to listen to doctors, and now he's banged up too. Surprising, right? Because like
I heard it was more of just like, hey,
a mental thing. Yeah,
get away.
It's just mentally for him.
And I talked about this on my show on Tuesday night. And I mean, granted, it's lost a lot of luster just because everyone in their aunt is saying it, but I was one of the first people to say it. Rodgers is going to be on the Vikings next year.
That's what I mean.
Because I don't even look at it. His buyout is $8.5 million. After that, next year it goes up to 16. After that, 32. You know what I mean? It keeps on going up and up by these astronomical doubles. So if they're going to get off of it, this is the year to get off of it. What's his face? Darnold, he's on a 1-year contract. He's going to demand more money per year. He's going to probably be looking for at least 10 to 15. So, I mean, that's the thing. Who would you rather have, Darnold or Rodgers? Because the quarterback they drafted from Michigan just had another knee surgery. So he's not going to be ready at the beginning of the year. They just need another year bridge gap.
I would say this. And this has to do as much with everything that comes around with him. I would stick with Darnold. And I will say, I don't think Darnold's ceiling is obviously as high, but that's kind of one of those like baggage conversations that you have, right? Like if you're a team and do you want to bring in Aaron Rodgers and all that comes with him, a guy who has a massive ego, who thinks he's probably above a lot of these franchises with what he's done, who wants to bring his own guys in, who wants to do it his own way? Are they going to try to bring in like a Hackett or Adams, things like that? Like, you know what? You're right in that you probably feel like maybe winning a playoff game might be your ceiling with Sam. You're probably not going to win a Super Bowl, but there's sure not all that drama and all that extra off the field stuff that comes along with it. And you know what's crazy? We never would have had a conversation like that about Aaron Rodgers just a few years ago. it wouldn't even have been a conversation. We would have said it's absolutely worth it no matter what, right? We never would have even like thought about this, but that shows you like how much he's been a hypocrite, and not just playing.
I don't know. Like, I look at it like this: if they fizzle out and they don't make the playoffs, I think they're going to make a change, and I think they're going to change it with Minnesota, just because they're like, we're close. If we tell him to come here on a year, Kevin O'Connell is insanely respected in the league. I don't know. That's
no. And I can understand. I'm saying if it's me and I'm the owner and I'm there in Minnesota, I'm not doing it. But I think teams will do that. I agree with you. Like that's the exact team to do it. For me, I'm going, you know what? Risk, reward. I don't even want to do it. I don't want to hand my organization over to someone like that. I'll stay here and maybe we can get another year out of Sam. Maybe we can upgrade somewhere slightly. But I know what you're saying. Like you look at them and go, And for a team like the Vikings, got to be a little careful too, because it's very competitive in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll fall all the way out of the playoffs. They probably have to lose like 3 or 4 in a row. But as far as like jockeying for position, things are really, really competitive over there. Couple games left to discuss. Eric, where do we head next? We go, or so nothing really for you in the 49ers Packers with all the injuries now. Me neither. I got to stay away here. Like, so if you were talking like, I'm putting together a DraftKings lineup right now. You thought Debo would be the guy that they try to lean in on.
I think they're going to lean on Debo like no other. Like, because we saw it. McCaffrey had some breakaway runs, and
he got caught.
He could not. He got caught. He has clearly lost a step. They're not putting in Jordan Mason enough. Shanahan, look, he is a smart dude, one of the better coaches in the league, and he's going to be looking back, and he's just going to be like, I got to give the ball to my best playmakers, and that being Debo. So
2 games left, Sunday and Monday Night Football. Eagles at the Rams. The Rams are a 3-point home dog against the Eagles here, who quietly played pretty well. They have a couple extra days off after the Thursday game. Defense with Fangio ramping up. But I was waiting for this +3, Eric, and when it came, I jumped in on the Rams. It feels like the spot. It feels like the number. Feels like if you got this number, that's the side to be on. Rams offense, much, much better with their weapons out there. You talked about how a couple weeks ago they probably could have won that game against the Dolphins that kind of flipped. And the Rams are right in the mix. I mean, they need to keep winning to try to get it into the playoffs and maybe even win the division. So these games have, I think, a little bit more for the Rams with kind of your life on the line. I think they should be able to run the ball well here against an Eagles defense that's been good, but the Rams offense is balanced. That's the key. They can run, and they have guys like Puka and Cooper who can go out and get you a big first down if need be. So I think it's a good spot, and I think it's a pretty good matchup for the Rams here. I waited for the 3. I got the 3, so I'm in on them and a little on the money line.
So I totally forgot to mention, and this is totally my bad.
Please do.
Talking about DraftKings. I need to go back to the first game we talked about. Kareem Hunt is priced as if Isaiah Pacheco is playing. He is $5,700. So I really feel like finding these guys that are going to be getting a ton of rep, and they have no reason not to push him because Pacheco's back next year. So definitely
next week. Yeah.
Look to put Hunt. In terms of this game, look, I got the Rams. I got him at 3-2. This is just a spot we need to look to fade the Eagles. They're coming off that win against the Commanders, have the game with the Ravens on deck. This is the toughest wide receiver matchup for the Eagles. I know a lot of people are making stuff about their young corners and everything. You got Puka, you got Cooper. I think this is an insanely tough matchup for them. Rams offensive line, they made some changes, did look better last game. Stafford playing well. Stafford historically plays well as a dog. Home dogs perform well. And we have no Devontae Smith. What's that going to allow to do? Roll coverage to A.J. Brown, take away the deep threat, force them to use the underneath stuff with Dobson, Dallas Goedert. Barkley has been having a great season, but I don't just trust his longevity. I think the 49ers, I think the Rams here are going to be able to move the ball. I think they're going to be able to limit the offense. Hurts, historically, look at his numbers. Production is down on the road. So I'll take the Rams here. I got them at 3 as well.
Both of us on the Rammies side. We finish up with Monday Night Football, Ravens at the Chargers. God, I wanted to get to the Chargers side here. And this is one of those where, like, my thoughts overall of this team are battling against the spot play here. And the fact that the Ravens come off of a bad loss too. I think that that also seeps in when I'm handicapping this game a little bit, because I would normally line right up to play the Chargers in this spot. But I do think these two teams coming off their games last week may have, like, the Chargers may have gotten a little lucky in a game that they easily could have lost against the Bengals. Ravens had opportunities to win that game against Pittsburgh for whatever reason, defensively, scheme-wise. Tomlin just really is a great matchup for Lamar and for them. He just slows them down repeatedly. Gosh, I didn't know what to do here. I was going back and forth. What about for you? Did you lock something in? Or did you have a strong?
I did nothing. I literally, in my eyes, look, this is going to come down. This is going to be a game you're going to be able to get money, positive money on both sides. Definitely, I'd probably lean toward the under with as good as the Chargers defense has been playing. I know that the Ravens defense does bleed production to the quarterback position. Maybe play a Hurts passing prop over. We gave that out last week. It was like at 224. It went over. If it's in 230 range, I definitely look to take that. But in terms of sides, I just don't know. I think this is going to be a last-second field goal. I think you're going to be able to get plus money on both sides. My biggest thing with this game is everyone's talking about new coaches for next year. Why doesn't Minter, the DC, why doesn't he get any love? We kind of look at what he did. He led the Michigan Wolverines to a national championship last year, being their DC. A lot of questions coming up to the NFL level, how his defense will transcend. And it's a top 5 unit in the league. I mean, this is a kid that has kind of just been good anywhere he's gone. I think he needs to get a little consideration as a head coach. But in terms of sides, look, if I can get there with a Justin Herbert prop, I'll look there, but nothing's really jumping off my board, and I have a ton of bets today, so I'll probably just pass.
A couple things to mention before we get to our Boom Fantasy lineups. There's some fun carryovers today, and if you're someone who plays the horse races, DRF has a big Black Friday sale, 20% off everything. So if you know you're someone that's going to be playing Gulfstream has opening day on Thursday for their big meet. Santa Anita has opening day next month. If you're going to be playing those tracks and using past performances and stuff, purchase right now a big package because you'll save 20% off when you do this. And then there's racing today, Santa Anita, Del Mar, So all throughout the Del Mar meet, anything you need there. We had a good couple of weeks, Eric. As a gambler, I don't like talking about it when it goes well. You just let the work kind of talk for you, because as soon as you start talking about it, it flips the other way. But seeing the ball well with prices. Yesterday I had a 20-1 winner right on top that we dished out on a few different places. So you don't need to bet a whole lot on those. We've had some pick fives at Churchill Downs over the last couple of weekends. Yesterday had one that paid $450, hit that thing twice. So seeing the ball well. If you're a horse racing fan, subscribe to the YouTube channel here. I actually have a ton of really fun stuff for Thanksgiving this week. I'm going to go over races from Gulfstream, Fairgrounds, and Churchill. And then Friday and Saturday, where there's a bunch of football games on, a bunch of sports all over. There's really good racing at Del Mar and at Churchill Friday and Saturday. So make sure to follow along. I'm going to be shooting you out some winners all over the place. Okay, so for today, I just got asked this question, and I just wanted to help out. So today, there's a pick 6 carryover at Gulfstream Park. It's a mandatory payout. There's a pick 6 carryover at Del Mar, and there's a pick 6 carryover at Aqueduct. So all three of those tracks, and Gulfstream is the mandatory payout on the jackpot. The other two are just regular carryovers. So Gulfstream is 20 cents. Del Mar is $1. Aqueduct is $1. There's even one tonight at Los Alamitos. So all over the place. Get ready for the Sunday carryovers.
Oh, Los Alamitos. Jeez.
Yeah. So Eric, let's talk about some Boom, right? this is you today for your Boom Fantasy. Give everybody the specifics again. I'm sure there's some people who are sitting here watching. They're like, what's Boom? I want to play what these guys are playing. How do they do that?
Go to the App Store, download the Boom Fantasy app, use promo code ETOFT21. Put 2 props together. Minimum of 2. You can do more than 2. They have like some insurance where if you hit 2 out of 3, you can get a little bit of a discounted price. For me, what I did is I did the DJ Moore over the 47.5 yards, Mike Evans over 54.5, and Calvin Ridley. I think all 3 of these guys have great matchups. I think they're going to look to be exploited. And it's probably going to be some game scripts where they're going to have to throw the ball.
So there's Eric's. Here's a look at mine. I went Terry Mack. He came off of a week last week where he was really struggling against Philly. So I think they're going to early and often be focusing in on him. I also think for the Chiefs, these couple weeks now for the Chiefs, these are important weeks. What did we see from them last year? They struggled in the middle of the year, but what did they do? They started getting the ball in Rashee Rice's hands. So then once the playoffs happen, Rice was dominant. Can they do that this year with a guy like Hopkins? Right now, can the next 3 or 4 weeks, can they get Hopkins involved so he could be a guy they lean on when, the games get really important? I'm hoping so. I'm thinking that might be the case. Boom Fantasy, check it out. Download and use the promo code ETOFT21 when you sign up. Anything else we need to mention, buddy?
No, let's have a good NFL Sunday and let's make some money.
I will say, as Thanksgiving is coming up this week on Thursday, everyone will probably be out there thinking about the things they're thankful for. You have those conversations where you go around the table and you say some of the things. Man, I got to say, the last 4 or 5 years, very lucky to have a friend like you, man. We've talked sports for hundreds of hours through the years. You've always helped me if we needed to make a change, if my schedule was off, if I needed to be a little flexible. You filled in for me on times, brought other people in. It's funny. I don't even remember what it was like before talking with you when I was like what my schedule would be like or how it would happen. So it's been very, very fun getting to know you and becoming close with you and becoming one of my best buddies over the last few years. So I'm thankful for having a good friend like you, buddy.
Likewise, right back at you, man. I mean, talk to you all the time. Appreciate you. And, you've opened up some doors for me. So thank you.
And to all of you out there, we appreciate you. Bobby Thomas, Sports Facts, even you. I hate the Lakers. Man, I had a bad night last night with those Lakers. I don't want to see Denver Nuggets. I see them in my nightmares. I don't want anything to do with the Denver Nuggets. We've lost 14 out of the last 15 games to the Denver Nuggets. There has never been a team I've rooted for in any sport. I mean, I've rooted for bad Laker teams, bad Dodger teams, bad USC Trojan teams. They've never lost 14 out of 15 games to one team. Eric, I hate Jamal Murray more than any player in the world. And I swear to God, I don't think Michael Porter Jr. has ever missed a shot against the Lakers. I am so mad about that. Let's make some money. Sports Facts. Always great to hear from all of you. Eric, I hope you have an awesome Sunday. Next week, we should be back like normal. I believe Chase is going to help me during the week do the podcast for my show to preview the games. And I think we'll be back like normal for next week with NFL Betting Blitz. We'll just see what your schedule is like, Eric, because I know everyone's got family. Everyone's got stuff for Thanksgiving. So good luck to all of you on Sunday, and we'll talk to you again next week right here on NFL Betting Blitz.